Hello. Welcome to the third inaugural episode of the the Panelverse pod. No, we're not restarting. This is the third time this one's gonna make it. Third,
but you just
inaugural.
said this is the third
It
inaugural.
is. It's because this is the third one we've recorded now.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is our third shot at it.
I think it's the third take. I don't think it's the third.
It's the third one we've recorded. This is our third podcast.
I think we need to restart.
Nope, we're sticking with this one. This is a new podcast. It's a comic book club. My name is Sam. I just started reading comics because I went to Free Comic Book Day and I spent too much to not get into it as a hobby. So here I am, and I needed a reason to kind of deep dive, because I don't got much free time. But if I can make an excuse to read comics, like say making a podcast where I read a comic and then talk about it with other people, like say a casual fan as our Mr. Roman Davis. Introduce yourself, Roman Davis.
Why'd you use my full name? That's weird.
Is it weird? I
It's
can bleep
weird.
out your last name.
Bleep out my first name too.
Okay.
No. Yeah. And a hardcore fan, Mr. Austin.
No, I'm Austin. I'm a hardcore fan. I've been given the title of 90s comic expert. No, I like comics a lot.
You work at a comic book store.
Yeah.
And during Free Comic Book Day, which is essentially the Black Friday extraordinaire of comic book stores, as far as I can tell, you literally were walking around with a name tag that said 90s comic book expert.
You're not wrong.
So,
I mean, you're not necessarily right.
and then you gave me the second volume of Future Quest when I asked for it.
I'm sorry that the cover is the exact same for both volumes.
It's
very
similar.
Yeah.
Oh, we still have to go back to that other comic book store.
Yeah, we won't give them free press though.
No, fuck no. They're a chain. Okay, we don't support chains.
Yeah.
Except during S&M.
Is it?
So anyway, what are we discussing today, Sam?
So our first inaugural third podcast is going to be about Avengers Academy, which was recommended by Austin, our comic book expert. What's with the face?
Why did you say third again?
Because it's our third podcast.
It's our third take, Sam. It's not our third podcast.
It's our third podcast.
If it's not released, it doesn't
I
count.
mean, it still counts.
I'll smack the shit out of you, Sam.
So anyway,
Season 1 of Yu-Gi-Oh! Was the first season of Yu-Gi-Oh! Even though there was a season 0.
oh my god. So anyway,
So it's Avengers Academy. We read
shit
the
out of you.
first. Well, I read the first 6 issues. Austin read.
I've read the whole series.
Austin read the whole series.
That was back in 2012, though.
Roman was given the initiative to read the first 5 or 6 issues, and my dude just straight up read the whole thing.
It was good.
Yeah, we'll get into some final thoughts on that. So, Sam, you're a big Young Justice fan. That's the reason that I suggested this.
Loving Young Justice.
Yeah,
and
we should say the TV show, not necessarily the
TV
comic
show.
book.
And I would love to get in the Young Justice comic books was actually why my first initial I'm gonna get into Young Justice or get into this, and then it went into a whole thing that it was like Young Justice for a little bit, and then it was Teen Titans, and then Titans, and it just got too complicated.
Yeah,
so I
and
stopped.
And the Young Justice comics are very different from the TV show. So
Yeah, but I love the TV show.
yeah. Oh, sorry.
And so, yeah, and from reading this, it felt like a very marvelized version of Young Justice to me, at
Yeah.
least the untrained eye.
And that's why. Do you remember how many? Oh man, what series did I give us to pick from? I gave us Avengers Academy, Initiative, and
New X-Men,
New X-Men. Yeah.
and there was another one. I don't remember.
Was it Young Avengers?
I think Young Avengers.
Yeah, and I'll be honest with you, Avengers Academy is probably my least favorite of those. That doesn't mean I don't like it. It's just, this was a interesting pick from my perspective.
Yeah. I agree, and
yeah.
I enjoyed it. Roman, what were your thoughts about it?
It was really good. As far as comics for a younger generation go, a younger being about the teen ages, 14 through
But
18.
I do want to. I'd just like to point out, you all were in the age range for this comic when it came out.
Yeah,
But
but the other flip side is people in that age range don't read comics.
you'd
typically.
be surprised.
They
You're just gonna make all of our audience mad.
I
mean,
read comics when I was
You read
10,
comics. I
15.
feel like
Also, I'm not that much older than you.
Yeah,
I just mean like not in our age range now. I just mean like whenever I was in high school,
It's
like
true.
the 14 to 18 age range, people weren't like talking about comics, especially not. I mean, I feel like now it's probably picked up steam because of the whole MCU.
Yeah.
But whenever I was in high school, nobody ever talked about comics except Roman.
That's
Roman
fair.
was literally the only guy I knew that would actively talk about comic books.
It's fair. So
And even I didn't even know you that much in high school. We didn't hang out.
No,
Yeah.
you were kind of the lame.
I was
Still am, buddy.
I was gone while they were in high school.
You were in a different country.
Yeah. So yeah, let's talk a little bit about what the series is about as a whole. Avengers Academy takes place during the heroic age of Marvel, which is right after Dark Reign and Siege, where Norman Osborn took over S.H.I.E.L.D. pretty much, renamed it to Hammer. Villains were the Avengers. All of the real heroes were in hiding. It was a dark time. It was a dark time in Marvel. Like, nothing could be goofy. End of that, we have, the real Captain America comes back. He wants to rebuild the heroic age, and one of the teams that came out of this was the Avengers Academy. Hank Pym and a bunch of other damaged Avengers, which we're going to get into, take in teen heroes that were tortured by Norman Osborn and exploited, and try to teach them that they can be heroes too. They don't have to let what someone else did to them define who they are. And it just, it came around at a really weird time, but a really good time.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, I read it shortly after the original run ended. I really enjoyed it. It definitely is a sign of the time at Marvel. This series would not be created today. Which some would say that's a good thing, some would say it's a bad thing. Sam, I'd like for you to talk to us about the main staff.
Main staff.
Yeah, the main staff of the teaching staff at the Avengers Academy.
Okay, so there's Hank Pym,
Mm-hmm.
who's a Wasp,
Yes. Why is he the Wasp?
because something happened and he took over from his wife. He was Ant-Man, and
Yeah.
now he's a Wasp.
Yeah.
Which I haven't even seen the Ant-Man movie. I know literally nothing about that.
Yeah, so Hank Pym, just for context for you, is crazy. He
I got that.
he's had so many secret identities. Roman, can you name a couple of them for me? So we know Ant-Man and Wasp.
We got Ant-Man, Goliath, evidently, Giant Man, Dick Van Dyke.
He was never Dick Van Dyke. So yeah, you've got Ant-Man, Giant Man, Goliath, Yellow Jacket, and the Wasp. Yeah.
So you had Hank Pym.
Mm-hmm.
You had Justice, who is like all the teenagers, or one teenager in particular, is just in love with him, and I can't see why. He just
in love with him.
seems
That's
boring.
just Justice's
He's
thing.
normal,
He's a
right?
ladies' man. He was the leader of the New Warriors,
Yeah.
and yeah, he's always just been the ladies' man.
Yeah, he's a little bitch.
Yeah, his defining characteristic for years was, I want to be an Avenger. And then he was an Avenger, and he was like, man, I don't really like being an Avenger.
Yeah, he killed his dad.
He did
Went
kill
to
his
jail
dad.
and then
Not
dealt
in
with
this
it.
book.
Not in this
backstory,
book,
yeah.
but they explained it in the book.
Yeah.
That at some point he killed his dad.
Yeah.
There's also Tigra, who doesn't really get a whole lot of backstory. She's just kind of there.
She was a cop who...
She is thick as hell.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I like Tigra.
She's the Lola Bunny of a new generation.
I think she just
Like Looney Tunes show Lola Bunny?
Yeah,
Or
like
Nah,
Space Jam.
Space Jam. Lola
Space Jam,
Bunny.
when she just walks in looking fine as hell, defined an entire generation of furries. Not me, of course. I would never.
Yeah, I'm just, talking for a friend.
Yeah.
But
I mean, I'm more of a Gadget from Rescue Rangers kind of guy.
I mean, whatever floats your boat, buddy.
Yeah.
But no, so
I came
she's
up on Jessica Rabbit myself.
she is very attractive. She has attractive features while also being a tiger.
Mm-hmm.
But she seems like she wants to. She seems like the least broken of them, which I'm sure is going to come crashing down at some point because
Yeah.
everybody in the series is just a broken, awful. Not awful, but just broken.
Yeah.
There's
some of them are awful.
some of them are awful. There's Quicksilver, who is
pretty awful.
literally the only character in this entire series that I had like a pre-existing knowledge about, and that's just because I've seen 2 versions of him, neither of which match this at all.
Yeah.
There's the MCU version of him, where he's an Eastern European that just gets killed off for the sake of having emotional drama for Scarlet Witch.
Mm-hmm.
And there is the X-Men version of him, which is a troubled teenager from America who has the best scene in his movie, and then I haven't seen the other movie that he was in, but I hear his scene in that movie
right
was
now,
also
Sam.
really good. What?
You're killing me.
Why?
X-Men Apocalypse was garbage.
I haven't
It
seen.
was garbage, but that was a good scene.
I haven't seen X-Men Apocalypse.
It was
No,
garbage.
don't worry
But
about
his
it.
scene,
I
in,
mean, you should watch it, but it was garbage.
his scene in Days of Future Past was really good.
It doesn't live up to the scene in Days of Future Past.
Which
That's
how much
only
of that
because
is
it
just
was the
because
first.
like Days of Future Past, it came out of nowhere.
Yeah, that's
And-
really, you were expecting another Quicksilver scene.
I need to see Apocalypse just for Olivia Munn. I feel like as a
So,
native
you need
Oklahoman,
to
I now
see.
need
Oh,
to.
yeah, she's from Tulsa.
Yeah, she's a.
It's not worth it for that. My favorite X-Man is Angel, and they just wreck him in that movie.
Oh.
Now, did he die in the end?
Yeah, he did.
I don't.
Spoiler alert for a terrible movie. Anyway, so
So I knew about him, but this version of him, probably just because they have a lot more source material to work off of, just
Yeah.
doesn't match that at all. Except for the fact that he is still Scarlet Witch's brother,
and Magneto's son.
which they couldn't talk about. Was that in? I don't know if that was established in either. It definitely
It's
wasn't
not
established in the MCU version, but I don't
It
know
was established in the MCU version.
that he was Magneto's son.
Oh no, that he was. Sorry. I thought you were talking about Scarlet Witch's brother. I
No,
was like,
no,
yeah.
I know that part's established. But they couldn't name
Yeah.
drop Magneto doesn't exist.
No, yeah.
So that part's not there, and as a result, a lot of his
Maybe if
the
you'd
backstory
seen
that they
X-Men
built up.
Apocalypse, you would have known about whether or not it was established in the X-Men universe.
So anyway, so yeah. So you got a lot more of Quicksilver's backstory in this. That he started out as
Yes, and they
Brotherhood
actually-
of Evil Mutants.
Yeah, they had an entire scene dedicated to it, which helped
Yeah.
catch me up.
Yeah, and in this, he's telling everybody that he was a Skrull in Secret Invasion, which I don't want to go too much into that.
It was a lie.
Shape-shifting aliens took the place of a bunch of people. He said that he was removed, and all the evil stuff he did was the aliens' fault. He's lying. He's a liar.
Is it? I think that's all the main
No,
teaching
you got
stuff.
Speedball.
I don't want to talk about Speedball.
Okay, well,
He just he wasn't a big enough factor
Yeah.
in this. Like they kind of laid the groundwork for eventually building on him.
yeah, and
but-
this is Speedball's first story after he was Penance in that Dark Reign storyline I was talking about, which there's a long backstory there I'm not going to get into. Just he's real sad and trying to make amends for, he feels like, leading to the death of a whole bunch of children and causing the superhero civil war.
Yeah, and you kind of get that from
Yeah.
reading him, but they just don't give him a whole lot of screen time because most of this is just setting up the relationships between the students
Yeah.
and what happened to them, how it affected them, and kind of setting up so that they can eventually grow.
Yeah.
And
So speaking of the students, I feel like we each need to go around right now and say our favorite student and describe them a little bit.
I like Metal in the series. He's kind of probably my favorite.
That's fair.
He's just all around built up. He's not overbearing, so to say.
Sam?
Least
Oh,
favorite
sorry.
probably just
I didn't-
Stryker because
I
he's
didn't-
first.
So give us a little bit of Metal's history. Like, why is he on this team?
No,
Why are they worried about him becoming a villain? Why are they worried about teaching him that he can overcome what Osborn did to him?
So Metal is a surfer from Hawaii, and he was in a surfing accident, and a lot of his face got damaged in this accident. And when that happened, they realized he also had powers, which was a metal plate over his skeleton and under his skin, which is revealed whenever a piece of his skin is removed. So that's why he's on the team. And he, like all the other kids, was tortured by Norman Osborn in order to make that power grow. And, so that's why he's on the team. And he's kind of revealed a little bit in the series to have. I mean, he's the most mellow character, but he's kind of revealed to have anger issues. and it's one of the many emotional problems that a lot of the kids are having in the series. So he is just watching him and how he doesn't want to hurt people is kind of why I like Metal. He kind of is the easiest one to watch accept his new life, which is cool because he's also the most drastically changed.
If I had to say my favorite, it's really hard to establish a favorite just based off of the earliest because they're all just established to be awful, and then they haven't had the chance to grow a whole lot yet. Out of the ones that we were given, I would probably have to say the one that I'm the biggest fan of is Stryker.
Weird.
Which, whenever I started this podcast, was not the case. But now that I've had time to talk and think about it, he's the only one that's kind of started on his path to improvement. Just like in the scene where Vale comes to him expecting just a booty call just so that she can fuck because she just got her heart broken by the womanizer himself,
Justice.
Mr. Justice.
Yeah.
We get a scene where she goes to him and she's like, hey, you want to fuck? After he had initially offered it earlier in the day. And he turns her down and he says, I don't really want to. I'm tired. Can we just talk? And I don't know. I feel like out of the first few issues, that's the only kind of one of the few actual like meaningful humanizing moments that we got for them so far.
Yeah.
And so I would probably have to say him.
Okay.
And he's just kind of background. It's kind of that moment means a lot just because he's a child star. Just lives for like the thrill and the just being known, and so having a moment where he doesn't do that and he's just like, hey, let's relax. Yeah. It's outside of the norm for him.
And so what did Norman Osborn do to him? Why is he on this team?
Norman Osborn just offered him fame and fortune, and then he got bored of the fame and fortune that he got working with Norman Osborn, so he decided to take a different route to it.
Okay, yeah, and that's kind of where we jump in with him.
Yeah.
So my favorite is actually Reptile, believe it or not. Reptile is a character who power set is just different parts of his body can turn into dinosaur parts. So like he wants to bite through something, he can put on a T-Rex head. He can't turn into a full dinosaur. Well, he can sometimes, but it's bad because he goes full dinosaur. And like is as intelligent as them and has their instincts. I really like Reptile just because he wants to be a hero, and he's surprised the most when it's revealed that they're actually at the school because they're worried those are the ones that are going to become the villains. And it's the most surprising to me because I'm like, why is Reptile there?
Yeah.
And we don't really find that. We find out in the last issue of the first trade, which is issue 6, that he's actually just as messed up as everybody else, but he puts on this strong facade that he's fine with what happened to him. You know, he just misses his parents. But he's going to be a hero. You know, he's better than everybody else. You know, but we see him crumble. We see him crumble and lose control, and it's just kind of that journey from because the first time we see Reptile, he's a fun-loving guy. He actually is a character that started out in Superhero Squad, which was the best way I can describe it is SD Gundam for Marvel superheroes. It's just really short,
that might
goofy.
Raise some more questions. I don't know what SD Gundam is.
Oh, super deformed Gundam, just like really little chibi characters doing goofy things.
Oh.
Yeah. Sorry, I tried to use a reference that people would get. Yeah, I do that sometimes. So yeah, it's just like a little chibi show for Marvel superheroes. Like Stan Lee is their janitor.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah. So, just starting out as just a really fun-loving character, and then, you know, seeing that they took him to a dark place, and then his journey back from that, and that he can still be a hero. I really like that. He was tortured by Norman because Norman was like, I want to make this kid turn into a full dinosaur. We're going to strap him to things and just, like, fire, like, lasers and shit at him. Yeah. Figure out what's going on.
Yeah, I feel like if I read the series to its conclusion, Reptile's probably going to become my favorite.
Yeah, I don't
just
think...
because that way I can see his full path. Like I could already see them kind of setting that up for him. I will say one thing I love about Reptile is the fact that he's got this fucking amazing power. There's our one F-bomb for the podcast.
Dude,
Whoopsie.
you said that shit like...
Did I?
You said fuck like
Oh, no.
at least 10 times.
I can't.
I don't believe that's the case.
I'll find out.
Maybe
Five
like 5
times?
times. Yeah.
I'll
Okay,
whenever I'll find
those
out
are very
whenever I
round
edit
5 up, and you got 10.
it. Man.
Yeah. So,
Oh, no.
Anyway.
Anyways, I love that. So, whenever I first saw him, I was like, oh, he's like the Beast Boy of this universe. But he's got the limitation that he can only do, like... He can only do dinosaurs, and he can only do certain body parts at a time.
Yeah.
But he has the capability to go all the way. But there's a huge limiting factor in that if he does, he also, I guess, transforms his brain into a dinosaur and then just loses all humanity, and he just goes
I got
hecking crazy.
Yeah.
It's heckin' crazy.
He goes hecking crazy, dinosaur crazy, dino
does.
mad, and
Yeah.
just starts attacking everything, which I appreciate because I feel like a lot of superheroes have like these powers, and their like weakness is some kind of external force.
Mm-hmm.
Superman's kryptonite, it's all that stuff. So I appreciate.
Batman's is the stock market.
Dang. But I appreciate that his is an internal limiting factor, which is really it's not something I've seen yet in my very, very small tenure of reading comic books.
Yeah, I just Reptile's definitely, like I said, he's my favorite. Now I guess let's talk about some of the other ones. I hate Hazmat.
Hazmat's
Come on.
She's derivative of Rogue. There's in these first 6 issues at least, there's really no growth.
She's just a jerk.
And where she ends up later on in Marvel, I just could care less. But we'll talk about that at the end.
I didn't like Hazmat just because like they're all in a bad situation, and like anytime there's a group of people in a bad situation, there's always an extra level of annoyance from the person who like makes the least of the bad situation, and that's Hazmat in this.
But she says get bent a lot, which nobody says that, and we should. We should tell people
You
to
know
get
what,
bent.
Roman? Get bent.
You know what, Sam? You get bent.
Want to get bent together?
No.
Is that our catchphrase now for the podcast?
Yep.
Get bent.
Into the Panelverse. Get
Into
bent.
the get bent.
Into
So,
the Bentiverse.
So yeah,
Bent my
Hazmat, her
wife.
whole thing is that she is toxic. Her intro is just like Rogue's, making out with a boy with a stupid tribal tattoo, and he gets sick, and...
Why did you bring up the tribal tattoo?
because
He
I hate
really
it.
hates
I
the
hate,
tribal
I
tattoo.
hate whenever white people have tribal tattoos.
Tarkin
I
does
guess
too.
Tarkin doesn't like tribal tattoos either.
Yeah, well, yeah.
You have something in common with my 11-year-old Jack Russell Terrier.
God
Good
damn,
job.
He's old.
So anyway,
He is.
there we were.
He's so old. Go on.
But yeah, she's just Rogue. She's just angst. She's Rogue from X-Men Evolution, and while I liked Rogue in X-Men Evolution, I didn't need another Rogue. That's my reason for not liking her.
I think there was you said something which brought a new light to her. Just kind of it's more of just a symbolic thing, but I appreciate like
Oh, Vale is just she doesn't have a character is the problem. She doesn't have
I disagree.
enough. Well, how so? Okay, so Vale, she turns into gas, different kinds of gases. She can be inhaled, which is weird. She can. What
So
does
I mean,
Vale
your
have?
her power set is why you dislike her. I
There's
mean,
everything about her. She's just not. She's not a very good character. She's not looking.
I will
to grow.
say her power and like her kind of setup reminds me of a worse version of Violet from The Incredibles.
I agree. I agree with that.
Just in
know.
that her entire power is symbolic of
Of about to disappear.
just
right?
just either feeling invisible or wanting to feel invisible.
I mean,
Just like in the way that her power manifests. No, Tarkin, no. My dog keeps trying to step on the step on my keyboard and ruin the podcast. But just like in the way that her
bitch.
power manifests at the moment whenever she just least wants to be seen.
Yeah.
And
I mean,
but I also liked her.
yeah, I get that. I like Vale. I mean, I think that I've just been conditioned to love all redheads in comics. Thanks, Stan Lee.
I'm
You
trying to think of a redhead.
Mary
Jane.
Jane.
Mary Jane.
Can we talk about how Mary Jane is just a symbol
Marijuana?
for marijuana,
Oh my god. So Mary Jane,
especially in
Jean
the Sam
Grey,
Raimi comic books?
we
Madeline
talk about-
Pryor, which is just a clone of Jean Grey.
Jean Grey is bad though.
Jean Grey's, yeah, she's bad. I like her.
Bad to the bone.
Well, you mean bad as in attractive?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know about all that.
She wasn't even the Phoenix originally. Anyway, we're not getting into that can of worms.
If anybody
I bet
can hear,
I can think of a redhead who you wouldn't like. Daredevil, kind of garbage.
We're not getting into whether I'm attracted to Daredevil.
Yeah.
So the last character, which I like that she's neither of our least favorite or favorite character,
she's just kind of there.
is Finesse. Yeah,
Finesse.
her power is honestly just that
her
she's the
power
best
is
at everything.
finessing.
Yeah,
Finessing. She be finessing.
Also, she might be on the spectrum,
yeah.
which is an interesting
The
character.
She
finesse
can
spectrum.
understand and learn everything, just not people, which is why she's at the school. She's very manipulative.
She likes to finesse people. Is
Yeah,
what she
and
really does.
I guess a weird thing for me is that she does start a relationship with Reptile, and it's very just. It's almost like she's treating it as clinical, or like she's learning things from it.
It's 100% what it is.
Yeah, and he's like, "Hey, are we dating?" And she's like, "Oh, you can't handle this. We're done."
Yeah. Poor guy. He had never even kissed a girl at that point, and then over the span of that, he goes from
that was only
never
a couple
kissing
months.
a girl
Yeah,
to kissing that girl, and then
it's heavily implied that they
likely
sleep
having
together.
copious amounts of sex together.
Now let's talk about how she finessed Quicksilver though, because she really put the finesses on it.
So she's probably the most evil of them.
The most potential to be evil. I don't think she's actually evil yet.
Yeah, but her whole thing is like she's sticking around because she wants to learn from Quicksilver. She wants to learn how he was taught by Magneto, and blackmails him with the information that he wasn't really replaced by a Skrull. That was just him doing everything bad. I don't know. She's fine. I don't hate her. I also don't love her. She's
kind of there.
Very forgettable. Spoiler alert, she doesn't really do anything after this series.
Yeah.
This is kind of her last hurrah in Marvel.
Which is it sucks. She's actually a pretty good character. She's able to finesse her way into people's hearts if she really tries.
You are just loving that word, aren't you? Are you Bruno Mars?
Finessing, I be finessing.
Yeah, I don't know. I think she's interesting, and that if I were to read more, she's probably going to play that whole side of her where she just tries to play everything.
Yeah.
Like a character in House of Cards. It'll probably come back at some point.
Yeah,
I haven't seen House of Cards.
She's a character who, like I said, hasn't really done anything since. And I think it's because a character like that is so hard to write.
Mm-hmm.
They wrote X-23 like that for a while, didn't they?
I wouldn't say that she was the best at everything. I mean, other than she was the best at what she did.
Well, emotionless.
Well, yeah, but
which part are you talking?
It made more sense for Finesse to be, or it made more sense for X-23 to not understand how to deal with people because she was a clone raised in a laboratory. Speaking of which, X-23 does join the team a little later. Spoiler alert.
Cool.
I guess, so what were your feelings overall about the series, Sam, as the newest person to comics?
I liked it. I don't think I'm going to rush out to read the rest of it because I already have a large number of other things to read. But if I'm ever at a comic book store and I see like another trade of it on sale, I might pick it up. I liked it. I just, compared to the copious amounts of other high quality stuff that I can read, it's not going to be anywhere near the top of my priority list.
I gotcha.
If anybody else is reading it, I don't know. You might like it more than me. I
Yeah.
don't know. Roman read literally all of it, so.
Yeah. I think it honestly comes down to if you like the Marvel Universe,
I don't though. That's
Really?
the thing. It was a good story.
Yeah.
I read a lot more DC than I've ever read Marvel.
That's fair. I mean, I'm also more of a DC comic wise, but so yeah, I guess Roman, what were your feelings as the more casual fan? Because you've been out of comics for quite a few years, right?
Not really. It's just I don't have as big of a encyclopedia as you. I liked it. And like I said, I read the entire series, so it's hard not to skip forward. It's a lot like the Teen Titans series from 2003. So it's got the same artist. So it looks like it kind of took cues from that story and then kind of went in a more realistic type way. To say if
Well, there are definitely parallels between Jeff Johns' Titan series and this.
There's parallels, but Jeff Johns doesn't go as he kind of is. He sugarcoats a lot of the Teen Titans issues.
Those are also characters like you can't take Robin and give him like a more tragic past and like make him super tortured.
You kind of can. They kind of fucked Robin up.
Well, I'm just saying like these are new characters, so they get to go in their own direction. Yeah.
I agree, Austin. I agree that the Avengers Academy used all or mostly all new characters, which was a very good decision,
Yeah,
and that they can really explore these issues without having to ruin other characters.
For me, yeah, I agree with what you said, Roman. There's a lot of parallels between the Jeff Johns Teen Titans series, and I think Sam's like, I got no idea what you're talking about right now.
I like the TV show.
Yeah? That's that Teen Titans series I've been trying to get you to read.
I
Our
hope to
entire
read it.
friendship.
I hope to read it at some point.
Yeah.
There's actually a little
Does
thing
your
in
comic
there.
book store sell it?
I have it. I'll give it to you.
So, Austin, what are your thoughts on Avengers Academy?
I think it's definitely a sign of its times in Marvel. We wouldn't have this series now. If we did this series now, it'd be a lot more goofy, which isn't a bad thing. It's just, it's a sign of its times. I enjoy it a lot, but I'm a little biased because I love new teenage heroes. Like, that's just one of my favorite genres. I think it's what got me into comics. Jeff Johns' Teen Titans run is actually one of the first things I read. So yeah, I don't know. It's I really like the series, but I don't think it's the best in its genre from Marvel, and definitely not as a whole. If you like any of the characters we mentioned, like maybe you watched Superhero Squad as a kid and want to see what Reptile's like in the Marvel universe, then I'd say this is definitely a series to pick up. Now, here's the fun fact. Sam, do you want some spoilers for what happens to these characters?
If I'm being honest, I'm not going to read the rest of it.
Okay. Roman, you want some spoilers for what happens to these characters?
Metal dies, doesn't he?
Yeah, can we get... Oh, well. So, can we put up... As soon as I said spoiler the first time, can we put up, like, a spoiler image?
Yeah.
This next part is going to be all spoilery. So, Marvel put out one of my least favorite series, and it's called Avengers Arena. And it takes a bunch of characters I love and puts them in a Hunger Games environment. They just have to kill each other and act awful, and all their character development's thrown out.
Oh, that's awesome.
So you have Metal, Reptile, and Hazmat end up on this island.
Oh, no.
Along with X-23, which X-23, you know who that is, right?
It's the
Wolverine's
girl
female clone.
It's the girl from the new Logan movie, right?
Yeah.
I haven't seen
Just
it. But
grown
I know
up,
her.
yeah. You should watch Logan. It's really good.
Yeah, I've heard.
You should
I've
go
heard
see
good
him.
things.
He's in Colorado.
If we get 5 views, Sam will watch Logan.
Okay, there we go.
5 views. That's
Okay, if we get 5 views,
You'll watch Logan.
I'll watch Logan.
you'll watch Logan.
Now, I
You
haven't
should watch
seen.
Logan.
I've seen
You should watch
X-Men
it.
Origins Wolverine.
Doesn't matter.
That literally gave me cancer.
Okay,
Deadpool 2.
man. All right.
Do they
You
make-
can watch Logan as a standalone movie as long as
Okay.
you've seen at least 2 of the other X-Men movies. That's all you
Nope.
need.
Well, I've seen Days of Future Past.
Have you seen the original X-Men movie?
I have seen
it was on
X-Men First
HBO.
Class.
Well, actually,
I haven't heard good things about those
actually,
movies. I'm not going to go out of my way and watch bad movies.
X-Men 1 and X2 are good. X-Men 3 is good.
I've heard
but
those were
people
good
don't wanna
in the
admit
way that
it's
early
good.
2000s superhero movies are good.
Well,
and
here's the
that they're
thing.
not
it's,
good.
It's again a sign of its time. But anyway, so
But it's kind of good.
there's an X-Men villain named Arcade. He's all into games. He starts this battle royale death match.
Like Fortnite.
It's a sign of its times.
The other characters from Avengers Arena are... Actually, I won't talk about that one because I'm trying to get Sam to read Sentinel. Future episode Sentinel.
So is Sentinel in it?
Yeah, Sentinel's in it.
Okay, well, there you go.
But more than one character survives. I'll say that. Like, more than one character
it's,
survives.
It's a shitty battle royale.
Yeah, it's really shitty. The writer's last name is Loveless, and it's like... Man, my belief... It's not Loveless. I can't remember what his name is. Anyway, look.
I knew his last name was Loveless.
I hate Avengers Arena because it takes all of these characters I've cared about and just murders them. It murders them. First issue, Metal gets melted from the inside out. Then Hazmat and Reptile get together and start a relationship. It's dumb. Look, guys, I'll reread Avengers Arena if we want to talk about it for the podcast.
We should really cut this whole part out, honestly. We haven't even gotten into Hazmat and Metal's relationship.
Well, I mean, we can get into it now. Hazmat and Metal got in a relationship. That's another spoiler thing.
Spoiler zone. In the first like 5 or 6 issues, there's not a lot to their relationship.
Yeah, they don't.
It's mentioned one time that they could theoretically hang out together because he can't feel anything and she can feel, or she burns everything, so they're like a perfect match.
But we're in the spoiler zone right now, so Roman, what do you want to talk about their relationship?
Nothing off top. I mean,
they smash is what Roman wants to talk about.
That wasn't what I was going to say.
That's what he's been mouthing this whole time.
Well, yes, that's what I've been. They don't have to know that. Well, Jesus, yes, that's in the very, very, very last issue, though.
Yeah.
So it doesn't. It's not like it doesn't have a huge bearing. It does have a huge bearing on their relationship.
I was going to ask a question.
Metal's got a peen.
Okay, that was my question.
He's got a peeper.
Okay, cool. Is it Metal?
Rock Slide
Does he always draw a card?
What? Why are you bringing up Rock Slide?
Because that's a very big thing. You were actually talking about that earlier.
The New Avengers?
Yeah, about how Metal deals...
New X-Men?
Yeah, you were talking about how Metal deals with his anger and kind of how he has to see, like, his mutation isn't as bad as... Well, I guess he's not a mutant, but his powers aren't as bad as, like, some people's, like Rock Slide. He doesn't have a peen.
I don't know who Rock Slide is. It's a move from Pokemon, for all I know.
You have a comic
this comic I gave you a long time ago.
I haven't read it.
Yeah. Rock Slide's that guy right there.
Oh, okay. He's like the Thing, but silver.
He's like super more rocky.
Yeah.
Like he gets a secondary.
So he's literally the Thing, but gray.
Yeah, kind of.
He's the gray Thing.
So anyway, Avengers Arena, I hate it. I'll reread it, I guess, if we ever want to talk about it. Because I know you're a big Battle Royale fan. Battle Royale storytelling style.
Am I?
I thought you were.
I liked Hunger Games whenever I was a teenager.
Fair enough.
God,
I do think
read the Battle Royale.
I do think, based on what you just told me, Marvel should definitely make an Avengers Arena video game with all the different characters, and they can all have their separate powers.
I'm not ready to have that wound reopened.
And they don't have to use the same characters, but like, just like it could just be like an online multiplayer game where everybody just picks a character.
So you just want Fortnite with superheroes?
Yes.
Okay, that's fair.
I mean, they did it with Thanos in Fortnite, but they could like actually give them all unique powers. I think that could be really fun.
Yeah. So I guess now this is into spoiler zone. I'd give this book a three shields out of 5.
Are we doing shields?
I think you get to do whatever you want to.
4.5 hats out of 5 hats.
Okay. On a scale of 1 to 5 metal peens, this book is acceptable.
Okay.
That's not a number of peens.
I think he's probably saying around the same number as me, about 3 peens.
It's an acceptable number of peens.
Yeah. It's about 3 peens.
Yeah.
I mean, you got enough. 1, 2, 3. You can probably take like 4 or 5 peens.
I mean, you got one for each hole.
Do you guys have anything you want to plug?
I wanna plug Metal's peen.
Okay, well.
Into your...
No, I don't know.
I think that's an intro right there. Is I want to plug Metal's peen, like the intro before the actual intro.
I don't. This is Stump Loaf. This is gonna be on the channel.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit about Stump Loaf.
Stump Loaf's just a channel. I don't know what it's gonna be. This is like the first thing. There's another video on this channel called Chef Loaf. I think it's the best video I've ever made, but it came out like a year ago, and there's not gonna be any more of them. So, But it's a fun
I mean,
video.
you could still do Chef Loaf, just different guest each time.
No, it's
Tell
not,
us if you want more guest or Chef Loaf.
It's not gonna.
We're gonna go ahead and do more Chef Loaf starting next week.
Yeah, Roman and I are gonna do Chef Loaf.
Yeah,
I
Sam is
will
actually
literally sue you for trademark infringement.
trademark
We
on
got
Stump
we
Loaf.
got some stuff coming, hopefully though.
Hopefully.
At least more of this, because Lord knows I like to read comics.
All right, Roman, you got anything to plug?
I don't have anything to plug.
We're gonna do a plug section at the end of podcast sometime. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I've got another podcast I do called Into the Panelverse.
This is into the Panelverse.
I do another podcast called Paneled.
He literally has the same shit.
They're not confusing at all.
Yeah, no. Paneled is a podcast I do with two local comedians named Cameron Brewer and Heath Huffman, where it's actually a podcast where we do more of a description of the comic rather than a discussion for the visually impaired. So, yeah. We have different guests each week. So, yeah. If you like this, like hearing me describe comic books, please check that out. Well,
So cool. Check that out. It'll be good stuff. Check back here. We don't know how often we're going to do these podcasts yet. It's probably going to depend a lot on our schedule and availability. Like I know, a week from next Monday, I'm going to be in a different state for a week, so probably won't have much opportunity to do anything at that time. But another episode will be out at some point.
Yeah.
And then we have other stuff that we're planning, so just check back often.
yeah, and if
Or
you have any...
occasionally.
Oh, sorry. If you have any book club recommendations...
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know comics, so if you're like, hey, this would be... And it's not just comics. Let's throw that clarification out in episode number 1. I specifically named it Into the Panelverse. Originally it was going to be Into the Comicverse, but I chose Into the Panelverse so that it's not just limited to comic books. It can be graphic novels, it can be manga, it can be whatever. Anything that's paneled. And that's not a podcast called Paneled. But yeah. So check us out. Roman, any closing remarks?
Titties.
Any closing remarks we won't cut?
I'm not going to cut that.
Alright, well,
Overruled.
I've been Austin.
Roman.
I forgot my name for a second. I almost said Davis.
All right.
Sam.
Thanks for listening. Sam, you should get the last word. It's your podcast.
I don't have any more words. Titties! No, I'm not going to say titties, Roman.
That's getting cut. No titties.
Roman says, Austin said I should have the last word. So I'm just going to spend a minute and talk about what I'm sensing right now. I have a 3-year-old Jack Russell Corgi mix that looks like a sea cucumber, and he's just licking my arm endlessly because
Sam,
that's what he does.
This has nothing to do with the
very
podcast.
uncomfortable.
What are
But
you doing?
also, my 11-year-old
Comfortable.
Jack Russell Terrier, his name is Tarkin. We didn't name him that. We
He
adopted him.
keeps farting.
He keeps farting. We adopted him when he was 10 because we were like, oh, we'll adopt an old dog because we wanted him to die in a nice home. He just farts all day long. He's a farty boy. Also, he whines.
Can old dogs learn new tricks?
No, no, I've tried. I'll tell you what they can learn. They can learn how to whine 24/7 as soon as you don't give them attention.
Like
Yeah.
some punks.
So,
Anyway, so this was Into the Panelverse with our inaugural 3rd podcast. Check back next time for our 12th podcast.